This is the Chefpreneur Podcast, where we inspire professional cooks to take on greater risk to build a personal chef business for themselves. Now, here's your host, Andres Hinojosa.
Hey, all you chefs out there. This is Andres Hinojosa with the Chefpreneur Podcast. This is episode 1. I am extremely excited to actually be launching this thing. It's been so long in the making, and I've been really wanting to get this podcast going, and I've just felt like I haven't been organizing myself and getting all my ducks in a row. But you know what? The day is finally here. It's finally ready to go, and here I am with you guys all. I'm really excited that you guys are all here with me, and I'm just really excited to really share everything that I know and everything that I've learned with all of you who want to listen. I wanted to give you guys, just on this first episode, a little backstory about what Chefpreneur means. And, hopefully I intrigue you to kind of stick around. And, our kind of mantra here at Chefpreneur is we really want to educate, motivate, and inspire you to really take a risk to kind of put the industry back in your own hands. So what I mean by that is that, for instance, my story goes a little bit like this. When I was about 4 years ago, I was sitting in my office there as an executive chef in the resort here in southern San Diego. And I just wasn't very happy at all. I felt like I was just kind of, burning out. I was underappreciated. It was very hard and very, difficult sometimes to manage some of the cooks. They were very unmotivating. And as much as we wanted to motivate them, unfortunately, the powers above me were wanting me to use subpar product. And I was always having to, make a decision based upon the price over quality. And of course, I'm all about quality. I'm all about putting the best product forward. And unfortunately, a lot of corporations and hotels and restaurants don't really allow you to do that. And I just felt like I was really sick of where I was at, to be honest with you. The money was good, it was okay, it paid the bills, and I had a family to support. So of course it was dawning on me that of course it was kind of an epiphany I had, that I was like, I even though I'm getting paid okay, I can't continue, on this path. I'm just not happy. And so I knew I wanted to start my own business. I knew that there was something bigger and better, in my future, but I honestly didn't really know what that was. And to be honest with you, I really started feeling it more heavily on my heart. And I was just like, man, I really have to take this step forward. I really have to just put both my feet forward and really take that step and take that leap of faith. Now, I will say that I'm not the wisest man at the time. I was, thought I had, savings, and I thought I had a few things, and man, it just, I didn't really know what to expect in the future, but I just knew I didn't really want to be in the position I was at anymore. So I actually went out, started my own business, and it was a catering and a farmer's market business, which if anyone out there has ever, done that kind of business, it is a difficult business. It is not something that you really do to make money. I found that out the hard way. It actually just felt like, I was out there promoting myself, and that's good, but honestly, I needed to pay the bills. And there was days that I'd show up to these farmers market in 100-degree weather, and I'd literally make $50-$60. Now, I'm going to admit, in my first 3 months of stepping out on my own, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I think I just made the worst mistake of my life, right? Here I left a comfortable salary, even though I wasn't happy, for what? For this, right? To set up a tent and do some food. Now, it was kind of nice. I was able to do the food I wanted, and there was, certain things that were going, well, I guess you would say, about that part that were good, that were benefits, but honestly, it just wasn't cutting the mustard on the money side. Now, I will say I was super happy, going out there, doing farmers markets, and, meeting a lot of people, being in front of people, having people see their face, when they try my food and you're actually making it in front of them. And it is a whole nother different dynamic, right? So, but as that business started to kind of fade out, not necessarily fade out, but as I just continued to basically not make money, I had to figure out something. Well, I got a phone call, got a tip basically from someone saying that one of the hotel owners I used to work for was hiring a private chef. And so wanted a private chef for their home. And I was like, you know what? I know him and, I used to work for him and I'm going to give it a shot. I got to do something because at this point, the business is not doing well. Now, another caveat to the story, I ended up having to move in with my sister. And at the time, me and my wife had 3 children. And we had to move in with my sister, which was a huge low blow. I felt kind of a little bit demeaned, if you would say it that way. And it was a tough time, but I had to do something. And I knew I didn't want to go full-time back into a hotel or a restaurant. And I was like, you know what, maybe I could do this private chef thing. Well, I ended up having a tasting with him and all went well. And of course he saw me, he knew me. And so it was almost like a, discussing salary by course 2 type thing. And as we were, discussing the salary, he threw out these benefits and the salary was going to be less than what I was making, in the hotel, but that was okay. It was going to cover the bills. And honestly, it was cooking for 2 people 5 nights a week. So it sounded kind of like a dream job. And I ended up, getting hired by him. I had my own kitchen downstairs in his mansion and it was kind of a cool thing. But I still felt like, okay, I'm back working for someone else. I'm still back with a little bit of chains on my wrist, and I felt like, I was still a little bit tied down. So I started thinking to myself, you know what? I like this whole kind of cooking in these private home type things. What if I did that for other clients? What if I did that not just for one, but for many clients? So I said, okay, you know what? And I started looking around, doing some research, finding some certain things on Google. And of course, the words personal chef came up. And I was like, you know what? Personal chef, that's what it is. It's with chefs, have basically they work for multiple clients or different clients and, they go to the homes and they cook for them. So I said, you know what? How do I do that? How do I start to maybe branch out? So the story kind of gets a little crazy from here as well, because as I started to do research on this, I ended up, my boss at the time that I was working for, he was like, you know what, there was a couple weeks that he gave me off and, a week here, a week there, and he was doing a lot of business back and forth from Texas. This is in Southern California. And, he was going back and forth from Texas. And I was like, okay, I don't know how much this gravy train is going to last. I was sitting here getting paid a salary. And he was paying me to stay home. And so I was like, I don't think this is going to last. So as I was doing research, I ended up getting a call from one of the people that worked for him and basically giving me a little severance pay and telling him, you know what, he's no longer going to need you. Everything was fantastic. You've been great, but he's doing a lot of business in Texas and he's not going to be around. And, just to travel back and forth, it might be, really not the best time to have a full-time private chef. So here I was back to square one, still at this point living with my sister and about ready to move out. Well, I started my company per se. I want to say, I guess I started a second company at this point, but it was really just, me trying to find some clients that I can be a personal chef or go cook for them in their home. So I started tapping into domestic staffing agencies. I started tapping into, just kind of asking around if anyone needed anything. And, I stumbled across a couple of my first clients. And one of them was very wealthy and, she wanted me to come cook for just almost her and maybe a couple other people every day, lunch and dinner. Sometimes it was, every day. Sometimes it was, she'd be gone and she wouldn't need me for a whole week. But I wasn't full time with her. It was more of just a contracted thing. I got paid by the hour. So I guess you would say my business basically started at that point. So I started doing business with my own name, chefandresinahosa.com. And started promoting myself little by little. And I started to gain some momentum. I started to see some gaps in the market. I started to see some things that I wasn't seeing before. And I know there's a lot of personal chefs out there. I know that possibly, many of you maybe even thought about it or have tried it. But there was a few things missing, in my opinion, and there still is a pretty big gap in the market. And I think a lot of personal chefs, they look at it as they're kind of just by themselves. They don't know what to do. They're going paycheck to paycheck or client to client. And I didn't want to be that statistic. I didn't want to just be, where I was feeling like I was on the outskirts and just, hoping that I was going to get a client, the next week or the week after. So I started to really use my brain and start to figure out, how can I build this business? How can I start to implement strategic partners, as I call them, and partnerships with a lot of different people to really start to bring business to me on a consistent basis? And I started to see the fruits of my labor. I started going out, talking to different people that were potential partners, and started to really introduce my services to them and started to create a relationship with them. And lo and behold, I started to gain more and more clients and more referrals. And honestly, I spent hardly any money. I mean, at this point, I transitioned my business from being just myself into a company that is still my company to this day, called Dinner with a Chef, and it's a personal chef service for any occasion, is what we say. And now I have actually 2 chefs underneath me in my company as well, but really, as I started to build these relationships and these partnerships, I started to see that I started to get some more consistent business. And I will say that it's been the most humbling, most gratifying, and most fulfilling thing I've done in my career to this day. Now, the reason why I'm kind of telling you all this backstory is because right now in the industry, I see so many chefs that are struggling. I see so many chefs that are really, really just underappreciated. They're overworked. They're underpaid. They feel like they have no way out. And a lot of them, come to me and say, "Hey, chef, what are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? I see you going with different clients to Kauai and Hawaii. I see you going to Whistler, Canada. I see you traveling to Malibu. I see you traveling to Pennsylvania. I see you traveling all over these places. I see you, cooking in these amazing homes. I see you doing all these great things." And they're like, "How do I get there? How do I start something like that?" And, it started to dawn on me little by little as more and more chefs started to ask me. I started to wonder, man, I wonder if there's a lot of chefs out there who really, really want to know how to do this, who really want to know how to maybe, take a step, take a leap of faith, take a risk, step out on their own and really feel like they can gain their put their career back into their hands, put the industry back into their own hands. Like I said, there was for instance, there was one gentleman that would come to me a lot, and I would talk to him from time to time, a good friend of mine, and he was still in the industry, and he was telling me, like, he'd always call me talking about all the politics that are going on, at the restaurant he was working at, and about how this person's backstabbing this person, and this person got a promotion over him, and then, he can't find good cooks to save his life, and just so forth and so on. And right now in my career, right now in my business of Dinner with a Chef, I felt, to be honest with you, I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I felt like I don't have to worry about all those politics. I don't have to worry about food cost. I don't have to worry about labor cost. I don't have to worry about, if the food and beverage director is going to allow me to buy something from the farmer's market, or, really amazing, pasture-raised meats or whatever. I can use whatever, basically whatever products that I really want to use to serve my clients. And it really opened up a whole other avenue for me in my career. It really got me to see how I can honestly make more money and be more satisfied and fulfilled at the same time. And this podcast, the Chefpreneur Podcast, I started thinking to myself, what do you call a chef who really takes on a little greater risk to build a business for themselves? So I started thinking to myself, I was like, I want to mix the word entrepreneur and chef. And so Chefpreneur was born. And what I've been doing these last 10 months is I've been developing basically a program to teach chefs to get results like I have, and to really get out there and put themselves out there. But to be honest with you, more than that, more than anything else, my number one goal, honestly, is to inspire as many chefs as I can to really get a part in this movement. And I call it a movement for several reasons. Number one, I really think that right now in the industry, with the way things are going, with the way that Airbnb is blowing up, we're sitting here in this Uber era of that, taxis basically don't exist anymore. You have Uber, you have Lyft, you have all these ride sharing programs, you have, so many things happening that consumers are really wanting to experience something different. The clients, the customers are really wanting to do. Now, I'm not saying that restaurants are going to go out of style, that hotels are going to be extinct. All I'm saying is that with the Airbnb movement, with the travel, with with people looking for something different and different experiences, I started thinking to myself, if I can encourage, if I can motivate, if I can push as many chefs as possible, even if they do something part-time, to start their own thing, then clients are going to start to make aware that they can skip the hotels. They can skip the restaurants. They can go to an Airbnb, hire a chef to come in and do an amazing meal, an amazing experience for them, and basically cut out the middleman of the restaurant. Now, I know that that's a really bold statement to say, but to be honest with you, if you really think about it, most chefs want to start their own restaurants. They want to have their own business one day. That's probably the number one thing that we hear from every chef is, I want to have my own restaurant. I want to have, my own business. And I'm thinking to myself, with all due respect, restaurants, again, I'm not bashing restaurants. I have a lot of friends that own restaurants, or I've consulted a lot of restaurant owners. But it's extremely hard to just survive in the restaurant game. It is extremely hard. Now, depending on where you live, you might live, maybe somewhere on the East Coast or somewhere in the Midwest, or you might be listening today from, here in the West Coast where I'm at. But it's just getting so much harder to have a restaurant. And it's like, I think about it, and I'm thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, there's so much overhead. There's so much investment that has to take place for you to start your own restaurant, that eventually you start worrying about the upkeep of it and if you're able to be as creative as you want. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, to be honest with you, one of the chefs I used to work with I used to work at the Grand Del Mar Hotel here in San Diego, and it's a 5-star, 5-diamond hotel. And there was a chef, and he worked in Addison, which is a very highly acclaimed 5-star restaurant. And he literally just launched a restaurant up in the Silicon Valley area of his own. He had to get several investors to invest, and he's doing amazing food. And I want to give him just kudos, and my hat goes off to him. But I guarantee you that, man, maybe I'll have him on the podcast, but I guarantee you if we bring him on for an interview, he's going to say how much work and how much insane dedication is involved to open that. And realistically, you can just be so busy right out of the gate, but the investment that was put in, when is that really going to get paid back? Now, I'm not saying everything is all for money either, right? Because at the end of the day, our happiness or fulfillment is much more than money. And that I guess I would find that in my heart as well. Like, with me, my fulfillment, my happiness is far greater than anything that I can do or accomplish with just money, right? And I'm not saying that I even have a lot of money. I'm just saying it really isn't at the heart of everything I do. I don't do everything for money. But I'm talking in a practical sense of when you open a restaurant, there is an investment to make. And that investment is huge. And to pay it back is extremely difficult. And so I started thinking to myself, how come we can't venture out as chefs and start our own business doing something completely different? How come it has to be with a restaurant in order for people to experience our creativity, our passion, our skills? And it doesn't have to be. I started realizing that with the business that I'm in, the Dinner with a Chef business, the personal chef business, I'm able to give clients an amazing experience. A lot of times doing the food that I want to do, using the products I want to use, without feeling like I have somebody overlooking me on my shoulder and basically telling me what I can and can't do. And I'm my own boss. And I want as many chefs out there to be their own boss. Listen, in this industry, we work way too damn hard. We work way too many damn hours. And we practically do it for nothing. And we use this whole notion, and honestly, I don't know who I'm speaking to out there. I don't know if any of this is resonating with anybody, but to be honest with you, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, whatever it takes, man, to get the product out, whatever it takes to do the food I want to do. And I respect that, but I'm going to tell you what, that stuff, it wears out really, really, really quick. That little tidal wave that you're riding, that little wave that you're riding, that creative wave, and that, man, I'm just doing the food I want to do. You know what? You get burnt out pretty quickly. Because if you're at a restaurant that the owner is actually allowing you to do the food that you want to do, it's still not your restaurant. You're putting in all this effort, all this hard work, and yeah, you're probably getting paid a decent salary, and yeah, maybe you're able to do the food that you like to do, but there's still that little piece missing where it's not really your own. It's not your own thing. It's not 100% your own thing. And if you take that huge leap of starting your own restaurant, man, I'm telling you what, it's an uphill battle. And so anyway, all I'm saying is that this podcast is really designed around motivating you, educating you, inspiring you about how there's another option out there. There's a new opportunity out there that I really believe is the time that the time is to do it is now. Like I said, personal chefs have been around for a while. But honestly, I don't think there's a lot of personal chefs looking at the industry the way I'm looking at it. I really, truly believe that if I can inspire and motivate and educate enough chefs out there to take a leap of faith, start their own thing, get out there, start a side hustle, whatever, even if you want to dive into it, just part-time and you want to start a side hustle on it, you get out there, you put yourself in front of clients, you start cooking for people in their own homes, you start creating the experiences you want to create with your clients, serving them on a whole nother different level, doing the food you want to do with no holds bar, nobody's holding you back, with no hands tied behind your back. You really have the opportunity. And I think the opportunity in today's market, in today's economy, and where the industry is at today, I think it's the perfect time to get out there and do your own thing. I want to just be a guy in your corner, like Rocky Balboa had his coach right there, right in his corner. I want to just educate you, inspire you, motivate you to take that leap, to take that stand. So this podcast is designed to really just talk all things chefpreneur, right? Everything from, guests that I'm going to have on. I'm going to have some experts on here. I'm going to have one of the chefs, in my company come on and interview with me. I'm going to have, whether it's people that, whether it's accountants, whether it's attorneys, whether it's, people, farmers, whether it's whoever, to inspire you, to get you to see that there's a whole nother world out there. It's as if we're living in this culinary industry matrix, that we're living in this bubble, that we only think that we have to go from job to job. You know how many chefs I've seen that have gone through 10 or 11 jobs in 2 years? Because they want to find that creative outlet. They want something different. They maybe get sick of the chef they're working under as a mentor. They kind of absorb everything he knows. And so they move, they feel like they move from job to job. Or maybe, something in their life happens. They get married or they have a baby and they have to, now go work at a hotel. They have to go now work, at a hotel or a corporate, setting to get better benefits and to get better pay. Or sometimes it's not even better pay. It's more just the benefits. And so, they might need something more, whether it's more stable, because the restaurant they're working at, sometimes the owner makes money and sometimes their checks bounce and sometimes, so there's all these variables that are happening. And I'm telling you that there's this matrix I really feel that chefs are living in. And I really believe that there's a whole nother side of the spectrum. There's a whole nother aspect to the industry that you're not seeing. And I personally have seen it in my own career. And I'm going to tell you what, I can never go back. I can never go back to where I was at. I can never go back to working for someone else. I can never go back to working in a hotel, in a restaurant, in a corporate setting. I could never do it. Even if I feel like I have a month that's kind of slow for business, I'm still so much happier, so much more, fulfilled, that honestly, I look at these other chefs and I see you guys out there and I see you struggling, and I want to be the guy in your corner to just help you win. So that is what this podcast is all about. That's what Chefpreneur is all about. I'm going to be, putting out content. I'm going to be putting out as much as I can to just really inspire you, motivate you, and really start a whole movement, because I think that if we can get enough chefs out there doing their own thing, I think it's going to affect the restaurant industry. I think we can actually take the industry and put it into our hands. And by our hands, it's not my hands, it's not your hands, it's in the hands of the chefs. It's in the hands of the culinary industry right now, is in the hands of the corporations. It's in the hands of the hotels. It's in the hands of the restaurant groups and restaurant chains. And honestly, it should be in ours. We're the creative minds behind it. We're the ones that are there pushing 10, 12, 14 hours a day, pushing our heart and soul on these plates and serving people to our highest capacity with our 100% passion and dedication. And what do we have to show for it? I feel like we have nothing to show for it. So I just wanted to, just take a minute, kind of tell you what this all is about, what the Chefpreneur program, what the Chefpreneur movement is all about. And I'm just excited that you're here. I'm excited to start this podcast. I'm so amped up to just see how many chefs I can inspire and really change the world and change the culinary industry forever. So that's the end of this episode. I just wanted to introduce the Chefpreneur Podcast to you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast. I hope that you guys keep tuning in, and I hope that you guys stay motivated, and I hope you guys really just understand that the future is yours and you can put it into your own hands. So this is Andres Hinojosa. I'm signing off to you guys, and God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Chefpreneur Podcast, where we want to educate, motivate, and inspire as many chefs to become their own boss. Please subscribe to the podcast and join us every week to be part of the movement. To sign up for our free online training, visit becomeachefpreneur.com.